Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be chatting with you all about the human side of recognition. And I have fellow recognition guru Dan here from Chocolate Soup, a really, really cool company here in Canada. And we have had lots of conversations, Dan, about the importance of recognizing the humanness that is in all of our employees. And I think that this is something that we don't talk enough about. What's been your experience both as a business owner, as well as in the work that you do now in the recognition space, about why it's so important to recognize employees as human beings first and foremost?
Well, thank you, Sarah, first of all, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to do this kind of in a format that is accessible to more people. Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to recognition, the first thing that people think about, which I think is kind of a natural place to go, is, oh, you've done a great job or you've put in extra effort, so I will do spot recognition for those things. And don't get me wrong, that's super, super important. It helps people understand that there's, meaning behind the work that they do, that their work is really appreciated, and that the extra effort is actually paid attention to and recognized. But at the same time, right, with employee turnover being what it is these days, and with us really being in a place where there's a talent shortage for highly skilled individuals, attracting talent is really important, but then retaining it, I would say, is even more important. And to do that, everyone started to talk about, well, how do I create like proper work-life balance? How do I increase, the quality of like inter-employee relationships, right? How do I increase empathy? And therefore, if you do all of these things correctly, then you can actually help achieve the kind of culture that will help you, increase employee engagement, employee retention, get you to that culture that you want. But I think that to do that, you have to recognize that people have a life outside the office, right? And recognizing that, I think, is super important. Now, there's various ways to do that. We've always used to recognize that in our employees early on. So, for example, from the first day on the job, if they had a significant other or spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, we always made an effort to make sure that, we've got to know that other person. So we would do a dinner together, for example, like an intro to the employee, and can let their significant other know why their employee chose to join us, and how we work. So that's
and Dan, I just want to pause there for a second, because a lot of people don't even know people's family members. I mean, that even might be an important first place to start, is making a note about who is your partner or significant other, and what are the names of the kids, and what are they into. And when you hear a little nugget about, oh, my wife, her book club, blah. And then when you think, oh, I wonder if this might be a great book for a book club, I'm going to pass it on to my employee to give to his or her wife, or so it's just knowing even and caring about the fact that people have important relationships outside of work. And then I love what you're saying around then build a relationship with not just the employee, building meaningful relationship with the spouse, with the life partner, with mom, dad, kids. We used to do that years ago with people having family days and bringing, as a community, the company picnic and things like that. But, those sort of things, a lot of those things have gone away. And I love how you have always built that relationship with people by taking them out for dinner or getting to know them and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, that information is there. We have it. Right? Every single employee gives you that information because benefits. Yeah. So it's not that hard to actually make a mental note of what the person's significant other's name is, or whether or not they have children, if so, how many. And even a simple asking them, hey, how's the wife? How's the husband doing? How's the little Jimmy? Oh, they would have just started school, because it's September. So how's first day of school go? And the interesting part about those kinds of conversations, right? As soon as someone starts taking an interest in your life outside the four walls of the office, that's pretty much first step towards friendship, right? That's what it takes. Friendship is all about people caring about your life, and you hopefully in turn caring about theirs. But by being able to have those kind of conversations, right? And they shouldn't even be forced. There's plenty of personal events going on in people's lives that you can ask about, right? Even as simple as, hey, what did you and the kids do this weekend? Yeah. Easy question.
Now, Dan, two questions though I have, two questions that I get from folks. One is, but I can't be friends with my employees. Isn't that a boundary thing? And also, what do I do if I don't have time? What do you say to folks who feel like I can't be friends with people at work or with the people who report to me or my boss. And how do people manage their time effectively to build those relationships?
Absolutely. So I think that there's a big difference between being friends and being friendly and caring.
Right.
You can be friendly and caring and show the employee that you actually do respect the fact they have a life outside the office and that you do care, how their life is outside the office. But it doesn't mean you have to go out to dinner and drinks and whatever with them and their family on a regular basis, which is what friends do, right? Showing interest, showing that you care, right, goes a very long way, but doesn't mean you have to be true friends. And I understand that kind of separation that people want to have, right? Because sometimes you have to have more difficult conversations with your employees. I tell you what, if there's already a layer of respect and caring between the two of you and you have to have a difficult conversation, that conversation goes a lot easier. And
Agreed.
it comes less as an attack on the employee and more as a, hey, I'm here to help you succeed, right? And so what you're doing there, building that friendliness really helps improve empathy. It helps you understand and them understand that, you do have a life outside the office. So sometimes if someone has to leave at 3:30 because Jimmy got sick, there's a better understanding because they have a kid and you've learned about them. So there's being friendly and there's being true friends. And I get that. As for not finding the time, well, there was an article recently about a CEO, I forget the name of the company, that writes 9,200 handwritten birthday cards to his employees. And it's 9,200 of them. So, and he's the CEO of a multinational company. If he can find the time, I think we can all find the time. Part of leadership, right, is not, and a big part of it, I think, is not giving orders, but actually it's soft people skills, right, and getting to know your people. And I think the personal recognition piece is a great way to kind of layer a human piece to the whole leadership component. So you don't have to be friends, but it really helps being friendly.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting article that just came out through the Harvard Business Review. And I love it when Oprah seems to seep her way into everybody's life. And it was actually a quote reinforcing the importance of a business mindset around recognition, because she said every single powerful person she ever interviewed, right through to people who perhaps don't have fame and fortune as well, every single person, as soon as the camera goes off, asked, how did I do? Every president, every world leader, every powerful, influential person. And ultimately, people want to feel heard, valued, and appreciated. And I mean, I think this is one of the things that we're talking about when it comes to recognizing the human side of people, of your employees, is people really recognize them. We say, I see you, I hear you, I value you, I want you to be around here, you've done a good job, and that I want you to come back tomorrow. To your point around it's our talent shortage, if we don't have meaningful relationships with people, they could go and work somewhere else for the same or better pay, for perhaps closer to home and less commuting through traffic. And yet you and I both know all the research. When people feel valued, seen, and appreciated, they're more likely to stay where they work, and they're more likely to trust and respect their boss and the organization. So if it works for Oprah, why wouldn't it work for business? Just saying.
That's a great way to put it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Highly engaged employees that feel like they have a sense of belonging, that they have purpose, are actually like 21% more productive as a whole.
Yes.
Right. So if you invest, say you have a company of 100 people and you invest effort in, all layers of recognition, and you can achieve that 20% increase in productivity, that's like having an extra 20 people on your staff. Right. So the investment is well worth it. Not to mention retention. Right. I mean, we all know that turnover costs 80%, give or take, of a person's salary annualized. To replace just in lost productivity and all the effort, right? So those are well-known numbers. Why not invest in making your people feel that they belong there, that they're valued, that they're cared for? So I'm a big proponent of that. We've seen that in our own companies, right? That's why we ended up doing what we do today. But that's it. We've seen the results, and they translate in increased productivity, right, and loyalty.
And I like how you said you basically have flipped it. So rather than it takes time, it's actually an investment. It's being able to retain people. It's being able to, people will give you discretionary effort, which is a lot of that part of the productivity equation. And frankly, people's ideas for improving, for making people perhaps work more effectively together, for producing different, newest, latest, innovative product. I just finished chatting with an organization last week. They have always passed on 10% of the cost savings of a really good idea to the employees, which is great. And people are excited and want to bring forward that idea. And their question to me was, and yet we're seeing a drop off despite that of people bring forward their ideas. When we dug a little deeper, there's a very strong division, a very us-them division that they feel is appropriate. And I'm not trying to say people have to behave in leadership ways or as owners in a way that isn't comfortable for them. And if you have a wall, there will be only so much somebody will do for a paycheck or for a bonus check. And so if somebody's idea, if really the only incentive for somebody bringing forward a continuous improvement idea is to get 10% of the cost savings, but the cost savings might be $1,000, well, will somebody work that hard for $100? But they'd work really hard for no pay when they feel like this is somebody I care about, appreciate, and has invested time and energy into me as a human being. Haven't you found that?
Absolutely. And I find, these days with salaries being what they are, especially for the knowledge workforce,
Yes.
they are higher than kind of the minimum requirement for incentive, I think. So an extra $1,000 or an extra, it's good for, and it makes you feel good for the first maybe 3-6 months, but it is not what's going to keep you there. So I completely agree with that. And the wanting to make suggestions for improvement, right? And all of that, I think if there isn't more of a public recognition piece that is attached to that, and if they don't remove the barriers to allow people to submit these kinds of ideas without the fear of being ridiculed, let's say, right? So again, it's back to an environment of trust, back into like a friendly style atmosphere, right? Then I think there would be challenges there. I mean, let's face it, it used to be that there used to be employer loyalty, right? So think back 30-40 years, you would get a job and you were pretty much guaranteed that unless you did something really bad, that was yours for the next 25-30 years, and you would retire with a pension. Employer loyalty is gone. And I'm often surprised when I hear from employers that they feel really jaded that employee loyalty isn't there. It's like, well, it's a give and take, right? It has to come from both directions.
Absolutely.
So when we have, especially in the high tech world, we're seeing turnover rates or tenure rates between 2 and 3 years long, right? So everyone's expecting to lose top talent every 2 or 3 years as they kind of cycle and go somewhere else. But, and a lot of these high tech companies think, they're doing some great stuff, catered lunches, ping pong tables, there's video games. I've been to a company that has a full on golf simulator. It's fantastic, but you have to layer the soft stuff, right? I call them the warm and fuzzies, right? That make people really feel like you care about them and like they belong, and that is going to lead to much higher retention rate than if you're just throwing money and toys at them.
I totally agree with you, and there's a great example of that of a Canadian company called Dava Co. They have their philosophy as a leadership team is to lead with love. And so I have no idea if they are the top payers or the lowest payers or somewhere in the middle of their industry, but they have retention numbers that are unheard of in the tech industry. Knowing and having had the privilege of getting to know the owners and the chief operating officer and frankly, many other people in various roles in the organization, people smile when they say the name of their company. They smile and they can't wait to tell you about it. So, I think that there's, to your point around the turnover that particularly some industries, and the fact that this talent shortage isn't going away anytime soon, they do treat their employees in a very friendly way. They aren't hesitant to use words that we consider to be taboo in the business world, like love. They go on hikes as a whole company together, and then they post those pictures out on Facebook. They post their Facebook lives of their meetings, their staff meetings, so that all of their customers can also feel like part of their family as well. And I think it takes people boldly trying new and different things to truly break through that turnover and that maybe disengagement that people have, and that feeling like there is no loyalty. There are pockets of loyalty everywhere.
Absolutely.
And it's going to take us a while to earn it back and convince people of it. And this is not an anti-millennial thing. Notice that Dan did not mention, everyone, that this is a millennial thing. This is every generation. Absolutely. So, I'm just curious, if you could forever recognize others' greatness of a company that you think really exemplifies what we're talking about. Mine was Dava Co. Whose is yours? What company do you want to frog, Dan?
Well, one of our key clients, actually, Avik Networks, they're based here in Waterloo. They've done a fantastic job on recognition, even before we came to the table to help them out on the personal end of the recognition spectrum. They're doing great. Like, their retention rates are amazing. And, I wanted to kind of come back to that point you made about, it was Dava Co, right?
Yes.
Where you're saying, they go on hikes and they do like really great engagement kind of activities, and then they post it on their social media. Well, if you think about it, if you create that kind of environment, that actually helps increase your employer brand. And increasing your employer brand and your employer's net promoter score through social media, because they have something either physical or an activity that they can take a picture of and help them represent how great the culture is at the company. Right? What does that do? The employer brand goes up. It helps you attract better, more qualified talent, right? Your employees are more likely to talk about their company, your company, to their friends and colleagues. And we also found that if you layer that kind of recognition that touches onto the family life, right, then their spouses and significant others will tell their friends as well. Yes. So, my wife's company is so great, like they do this, right? And so I think it's super important, is those little things, right, that help contribute to not just the enjoyment of employees being there, but to helping the company position itself as a leader in the employment space, and increase their brand, and therefore help them attract even more talent in this market that is suffering from talent shortage. So Avik Networks has been a great customer of ours. We're coming up on 3 years now, and they take recognition and making sure their employees feel valued and cared for and recognized for both personal milestones and for work milestones very seriously. And we've seen that, to your point, like they see a retention rate that is significantly higher than industry standard.
Awesome. Well, and I think that, what you just mentioned around the value of showing the external world about who you are as a company, how you spend time together, is a great example of the human side of recognition and the employee experience, because we probably would share pictures hiking or dinner together of our friends. So that's maybe one of those really soft measures and indicators about how human does the experience feel around here. Is, would you actually want to share a picture about what you're doing at work out there with other people, just like you would if you weren't actually working? And that's where you are working and you're working hard, and it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm working hard. It feels like I'm working hard. So this is where we have this amazing opportunity. Notice how everyone watching, how so little of what Dan and I have talked about has to do with gift cards and swag and all that stuff. Now, I'm going to put in the description how you can learn more about Dan's company, because he's got some really cool things that he does as an organization, so that people, if they want to mark key milestones and performance and so forth, they can do that in really fun, innovative ways. The bottom line, though, is I hope you've taken from our time together today, from two recognition experts who are ridiculously passionate about this topic, don't be afraid to acknowledge your people as people first and foremost. You're more likely to hold on to them. They're more likely to talk about you to other people in a positive way, to create an army of recruiters, and you're more likely to have them help contribute to the performance of the organization. Dan, is there any last words that you wanted to share about underscoring the importance of the human side of employees and recognition?
You know what, Sarah, you put it beautifully. So I'm gonna say the only thing that I want to leave people with is remember, if you are in HR, the H stands for human, and we often tend to think more towards the R, which is the resource, but HR, human resources. We actually put the word human first. So let's treat our people like humans and realize there's true value in that. And I guarantee you're going to see fantastic results if you do that.
That's beautiful. And to echo that human resource is not just a department. We are all human resources to the people in our organization. Human resource is not just a title of one person in the whole place who does this stuff. We are all human resource professionals. We're all, and the more we see that, I think the better off our cultures, our employees, and frankly, ourselves and in our workplace. So love it. Thank you so much for your time, Dan. Thank you so much for what you're doing to help spread the exponential power of recognition and spending time with me today.
Sarah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.